Folks, welcome back to another episode of The Fallen Badge. Today, the murder of Officer Paul Holsey, Jr., Beaumont Police Department, Texas. Officer Holsey was 30 years old. He had 8 years with the Beaumont Police Department. Now, he had a wife and he had 2 daughters. His mom and daddy were still alive. And his daddy was a former chief of police for Galveston Police Department. It's March 22nd, 1988. According to the Court of Appeals, the suspect spent the afternoon of March 22nd, 1988. He was visiting with a group of female employees in a clothing store in the Parkdale Mall in Beaumont. Now, he was driving a stolen red Corvette. Now, the suspect, he left the mall about 5:15 p.m. and he drove to a high crime area in Beaumont where he encountered a group of young males. One of these individuals, he purchased marijuana and cocaine. He then got one of the members of this group to get in the car with him and they were riding around. Now, Officer Holsey, he saw the suspect and he saw this other individual in that car and he suspected foul play. So he turned around and he attempted to stop him. But the suspect sped away and Officer Holsey chased him for a few minutes and they got away from him. Now, Officer Holsey, he continued to look for that red Corvette. So now while he's still patrolling, he sees this other individual that had been in that red Corvette. He stops him. He wants to know what he knows about that fella in the red Corvette. So he got whatever information he could get out of this fella. He spoke to an off-duty officer that he knew, told him what had happened. This was about 6:35 in the evening. He said he was going to check all the nearby motels for that red Corvette. Now, about 7 p.m., Officer Holsey, he finds that red Corvette in the parking lot of the Best Western Hotel. Now, he radios the information to another officer. Now, this second officer, he parks in an adjacent parking lot and he's watching the lot. And he confirms to Officer Holsey that, yeah, that Corvette's in that parking lot. Now, the officers both saw the suspect walking to the front desk of the motel. Now, Officer Holsey, he checks that information on that license plate on that Corvette and it indicates the car is stolen. Said that vehicle had been stolen out of Tampa, Florida. Now, about 7:13 in the evening, Officer Holsey, he's trying to get somebody to come back him up. Now, the officer that had been helping him, he wasn't able to help Officer Holsey because he had been dispatched to a pedestrian accident. So Officer Holsey was all alone. Now, according to the suspect in a later statement to the police, when he saw Officer Holsey come up by himself, he just figured the officer didn't have any backup, which was right. Now, he knew he had a pistol in his room, and his plan was that he was going to shoot the officer first chance he got with his pistol. So now Officer Holsey does confront the suspect out in the parking lot and follows him back to his room. Now, evidently, Officer Holsey saw that pistol, and he pulled his pistol and he told the suspect to put his hands on the wall. The suspect said he asked the officer why. Officer Holsey said, "You have a gun." So, of course, the suspect begins to argue with the officer because he's just trying to buy some time. Finally, the suspect, he puts his hands on the wall. Now, what the suspect did was he put his hands on the wall and it was right next to a mirror, so he could watch and see what Officer Holsey was doing. So the suspect said he watched Officer Holsey walk up behind him, and he saw him lowering his gun. He saw him put it in his holster. And just as he did that, the suspect turned around. He hit Officer Holsey in the face. Now, later on, there was indications from the autopsy that the suspect had grabbed a pin off the desk, and he'd actually stabbed Officer Holsey in the face. So a fight ensued, and Officer Holsey's gun was discharged. Suspect was able to get to his own gun, and he shot Officer Holsey. Then after just a few seconds, he decided that wasn't good enough, so he shot Officer Holsey again. Officer Holsey told him to not shoot me anymore. So the suspect, he got the keys and his money, and he left the room. Now, according to the suspect, he knew Officer Holsey was dead. Now, witnesses there at the hotel, they heard the gunshots, and some of them even heard the actual struggle. One of them ran to the front desk and told them to call the police that an officer had been shot. Now, 2 off-duty officers made the scene. Now, that tells you how few officers were on duty. The off-duty officers had to make this call. Officer Holsey had been shot twice. One went through the forearm and had passed through clean, and the second one had went into his chest, piercing both lungs and his heart. Now, this day and age, officers didn't have vests. If they did, they had to buy them on their own. ME said the shots were at a range of about 5 feet or so. Now, about 7:40 after the shooting, Orange County Sheriff's Office, they get in behind that red Corvette going down US Highway 10. There's a chase, goes off the highway into a residential area. Suspect crashed out there at a traffic circle in Orange, Texas. Now, the suspect, he fled on foot. He ran into an ice cream shop. He asked about a taxi service. He was told there's no taxi service in Orange, Texas. So there was a fella in there, and he offered him $50 if he'd give him a ride back to Beaumont. So the suspect was taken to Beaumont, and he had that fella drop him off at a Bennigan's restaurant there on Highway 10. Now, from that Bennigan's there, he got him a taxi, and he asked to be taken to Houston. Gave the cab driver $100. Now, 50 miles outside of Beaumont, police started following the cab. They pulled it over shortly thereafter. Suspect told the cab driver, he says, "Oh, well, I guess I'm going to jail." Now, when the officers went up to handcuff the suspect, he said, "I'm the one you want. I'm the one you're looking for." So he was taken to a justice of the peace for his arraignment there in Chambers County. On the way to the arraignment, he said, "I killed the guy," talking about Officer Holsey. "I killed him because he fucked up." And he repeated that same comment after the arraignment. Now, at his trial there in Texas for the capital murder of Officer Holsey, the state told the jury that during his trial there for the murder, the suspect had been taken to a little room there at the courthouse for lunch, and they always unhandcuffed him. Now, this particular day, August 18th, 1988, as soon as the handcuffs came off the suspect, he ran to a window, dived out of it. Now, that's a 3rd floor window. Now, anybody else, you dive head first out of the window on the 3rd floor, you're going to hit the concrete sidewalk and you're going to be dead. But the suspect, of course, it didn't kill him. He was taken to a local hospital. He was treated for his injuries, went back to court. Now, the jury in Texas convicted him of capital murder, and he was sentenced to death. Now, this suspect also received a death sentence in Florida and in Indiana. So now he's got 3 death sentences. Now, in Florida, he'd killed a 14-year-old girl. And my understanding is it wasn't too pleasant, his torturous ways that he dealt with the victim. Indiana, he killed a 16-year-old. And to top it off, he robbed a bank. December 9th, 1997, suspect was executed in the great state of Texas. Officer Paul Douglas Hulsey, Jr. End of watch, March 22nd, 1988.